Good afternoon. Regular meeting council update from myself from the August 21st council meeting. So a lot going on in this meeting. First one was the group Take a Stand for the Upper Highwood. So this is the group that's leading the charge to protect the Highwood watershed and the headwaters of the Highwood from this logging project that's going on. And they did a big presentation. Councillor Masterman had some great words to be said, and then made a motion to pressure the Alberta government to put a halt to the logging project until a full environmental assessment is done as to how it will actually affect High River's water quality and runoff changes that we're always looking out for. We're not concerned with High River's flooding situation because of the level of protection that we have in this town now. I personally don't think that any logging back there will affect our flooding concerns, just because of the level of protection that we have and the small area that they are actually logging in this project. So High River is safe. We're good with that. What we are concerned a little bit about is there have been studies in the past that have shown that clear-cut logging can affect water quality. We're quite a ways away from it, but we always want to be cognizant of what's going on. So this thing was approved 15 years ago. There hasn't been any public consultation since then, which I think is ridiculous, that you can approve something 15 years and then without a word just go to running chainsaws 15 years later. There's been a lot happen, environmental regulations, et cetera, the flooding that happened in 2013. There's a lot happened within 15 years that we've got to kind of revisit this thing and have a look at it with clean eyes. So we made the letter, or we wrote the letter, sent it up to Premier Notley, so hopefully they'll all look at it and assess it. And the work that this Take a Stand is doing for this, we can't thank them enough for being the advocates for all of us to in the whole region to take this on. So the next one was a reduction for 2017 property taxes. So this was a property that's located just south of Highwood High School. It involves one property, but I think there's three properties there that were annexed about 15 years ago. When a property is annexed out of the MD, there's a 15-year window that it stays under the MD of Foothills tax rate. After 15 years, then it gets brought into the town tax rates. And they're significantly different, of course, because there's servicing issues and roads, blah, blah, blah. They're night and day to compare the two. Within that 15 years, if a property sells or is subdivided, it automatically, whether it's 2 years into it or 10 years into it, it automatically gets flipped into town taxes. That's what happened with these folks. Nobody made them aware of this change when they bought the property. They agree with the actual assessed value. It's not that. It's just the fact that it was this initial jump just because the property was sold. That the previous homeowner, other agents that were involved, whether they didn't know or didn't tell, this homeowner got blindsided by this one. So we understand that, and so the council granted them the reduction on the 2017 taxes, but they have agreed to make up for it in the following year. So this one will be revisited again next year, and with the new council that'll assess where we're at. So second quarter 2017 operating budget, financial performance. So Cole's notes, our finances are in very, very good shape due to the fact that our CAO, former CFO, Tom Meyer, 4 or 5 years ago when he was hired, has put us in a path of great success for our finances, and it's already paying off. And our new CFO, Kola Oladimeji, gave us an update showing us that we are on track with all our plans for 2017 to meet the balanced budget that we put in place. Everything's in line, so we're looking great. Question that I had was where are we at with our debt load? And we're actually in very, very good shape on our debt load as well, especially after coming out of the flood cleanup. We are only using 27% of our available debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is calculated by municipal affairs based on our revenue, that you get a percentage of that you can borrow against. So our actual debt right now is $10.3 million. We have a total debt limit calculation of $38.8 million, which leaves us at the 27% that we're using. So we have 73% of our debt ceiling available to us if needed. The projects that previous councils have borrowed against that we're still paying off, and what we've borrowed against, all for very, very important and good projects for High River. One being the Highway 543 extension on the north end, Mundy Park housing, the affordable housing phase 2, the Cargill Field House at the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Complex, and then the CPR land, the 33 acres that we bought through town a couple of years ago. That's all in there. So our debt load is good, what we're borrowing for is good, and our finances are on, projections are there for meeting our obligations for 2017 budget. Facilities rate structure policy. So Craig came and gave us an update. A lot of our rate structures just didn't match up with the different user groups that were utilizing the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Facility. So these guys have done a lot of work in just getting things balanced out. There's increases in some areas, minor. There's also minor decreases in some areas to get things balanced out. So this rec center is something that the user rates are very, they're cheap. That's all there is to it. But we can't put them up anymore or else people wouldn't use it. To note, the town taxpayers subsidize the operations of that facility to the tune of $850,000 every year. This is where I kind of laugh when people tell me that the town, and I've said it before I was in this chair, that the town needs to operate more like a business. Well, guess what? We can't, because we have to operate too many things to provide for our citizens that actually lose money. No business would do that. So, and you can give me all the things, oh, if so-and-so ran it, it'd be all great and we'd be a big profit, blah, 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 whatever. We have to keep the rates so that our citizens can afford to use these facilities, but it is subsidized by all of us at the end of the day to keep these facilities running. So the rec center is the big one. It's an extremely important piece to the health and wellness of our community. It's worth every penny that we put into it. But it's not cheap, folks. So that's where the user rates had to kind of balance out a little bit so that at the end of the day that it is fair between all the user groups. Cycling without age. Caitlin came and just showed us. They brought one of the new bikes in. These are the rickshaw bikes with 2 seats in the front, and the guy driving the bike, pedaling the bike, sits in behind them, and we can get them up on happy trails. And for seniors or anybody with mobility issues, they can book one of these bikes and book a pilot, they call it, the guy that drives the bike, and do our little tour around High River and stop and do some shopping downtown, whatever you need to do. So a very, very cool thing, and I think we're only one of 3 or 4 in Canada that have taken this on, so really cool to be ahead of the curve on that one. Snow and ice control policy annual update. Eugene came and gave us that update. Nothing has really changed from previous years other than just making sure that we've got the reserves in place if we get a heavy snowfall year, and we've got a reserve account there that balances that out so that we're not having these big spikes of costs to everybody. So potential annexation of country residential property. So this is all the properties on 112th Street between 112th and Highway 2. There are some residents there that it's all in the MD, but there's some people that want to be annexed into the town. There's others that don't, and then there's others that are sitting on the fence because they need some more questions answered. So we did a little survey and we got back the information, and the survey results were pretty much exactly what we thought they would be. But people have a lot of questions, so we've put it back to administration to organize a meeting with these residents where they can ask all the questions needed as to what it means when they're actually annexed into the town of High River, and what changes that would mean. So that's moving forward, and we'll it'll be a next council decision on where we go with annexation on that. Emergency management plan review and deputy directors of emergency management. I've said it a number of times as to the work that Carly Benson has done, and congratulations to Carly that she is now the director of emergency management for the city of Vancouver. So it tells you the level of skill set that we've had in this town. Carly's done an excellent job in working with the emergency management committee in developing an excellent, solid emergency management plan for this town. Can't thank her enough. It's sad to see her go, but man, I'm proud of her to be able to take on a position like that, because as we all know, if the city of Vancouver has a catastrophe out there, it's not going to be a good one because it means an earthquake. So good luck getting that one under wraps, Carly, but we know you're up for the challenge. So what Carly brought to us was the list of deputy directors of emergency management, which are Trevor Allen, Lisa Reinders, and Eugene Lund. These are the individuals that will be responsible for this until we figure out the new position, which again, next council will put that one into play as well with the next budget. So the last one was some mural conservation work. There's $11,000 being allocated to work with an art conservator in doing some upgrading to the 2 murals, one being the nurse, High River's first nurse mural on the side of Rio Alto Restaurant, and the other one is the Fort Spitzy mural on the side of Evelyn. So last thing that I want to mention, we've got an election coming up. All 7 seats on council are available. Nominations have to be in by September 18th. Kara will be taking nominations from 9 a.m. till noon. Go on the highriver.ca website. In the search bar, type election in. It'll bring you up to all the information that you need to know about if you're looking at running for any position of council or mayor. With that, we've organized a community cafe with our High River, where myself and other members of council, our admin staff will be there. And this is a information session for anybody that's considering running and they have questions as to whether they have the time to do it, whether they're fighting the right issues, you're doing it for the right reasons. I'm going to speak just a little bit from our end as to what we've learned as being new councillors and going through what we did for the last 4 years and where we're headed in the next 4 years. It's a much different environment than it was 4 years, let me tell you. It is the chaos and the carnage of when we were first elected that was happening is not there anymore, and it's a much different mindset that needs to be taken into the next 4 years. So we'll be speaking on that a little bit. Those of you that are considering running, please come and we can answer any questions that you have. This is taking place next Wednesday on September 13th, so prior to the nomination day. You'll have a chance to ask us any questions about what the roles involve, as well as have a few days to mull it over before you actually have to put your nomination papers in. So, okay, thanks very much. Rock and roll, have fun, bye-bye.